Here is the Hollywood Top 20 Survival Movie list in no particular order. 1. The Grey. John, a wolf hunter, is one of 8 survivors in a plane crash. He must fight off a pack of hungry wolves, mortal injuries and the icy elements to get himself and the survivors back to safety. The Grey was released in 2011 and was directed by Joe Carnahan. Starring Liam Neeson, Frank Grillo, Dermot Mulroney, Dallas Roberts, and more. 2. All is Lost. A man, who is on a solo voyage, finds that his yacht has collided with a shipping container. With his scanty supplies decreasing, the sailor has to brave extreme conditions to survive. All is Lost was released in 2013 and was directed by Joe Carnahan. Starring J.C. Chandor. 3. The Edge. Charles, a billionaire, finds himself stranded in the Alaskan wilderness. To his horror, he discovers that he is being chased by a Kodiak bear. The Edge was released in 1997 and was directed by Lee Tamahori. 4. 127 Hours. Aaron Ralston, a mountain climber, is on a hiking adventure in Utah when he gets trapped in a canyon. Soon, he takes desperate measures to survive and struggles for 127 hours before he is rescued. 127 Hours was released in 2010 and was directed by Danny Boyle. 5. Cast Away. After a deadly plane crash, Chuck Nolan finds himself marooned on a desolate island. With no way to escape, Chuck must find ways to survive in his new home. Cast Away was released in 2000 and was directed by Robert Zemeckis. 6. The Revenant. Hugh Glass, a legendary frontiersman, is severely injured in a bear attack and is abandoned by his hunting crew. He uses his skills to survive and take revenge on his companion, who betrayed him. The Revenant was released in 2016 and was directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu. 7. Life of Pi. Pi Patel finds a way to survive in a lifeboat that is adrift in the middle of nowhere. His fight against the odds is heightened by the company of a hyena and a male Bengal tiger. Life of Pi was released in 2012 and was directed by Ang Lee. 8. The Martian. When astronauts blast off from the planet Mars, they leave behind Mark Watney, Matt Damon, presumed dead after a fierce storm. With only a meager amount of supplies, the stranded visitor must utilize his wits and spirit to find a way to survive on the hostile planet. Meanwhile, back on Earth, members of NASA and a team of international scientists work tirelessly to bring him home, while his crewmates hatch their own plan for a daring rescue mission. The Martian was released in 2015 and was directed by Ridley Scott. 9. Alive. After their flight crashes into the Andes mountain range, an Uruguayan rugby team must undertake desperate measures to survive. Alive was released in 1993 and was directed by Frank Marshall. 10. Gravity. Dr. Ryan Stone, an engineer, and Matt Kowalski, an astronaut, are on a space mission together. However, when they are hit by high-speed space debris, they must find a way to return to Earth. Gravity was released in 2013 and was directed by Alfonso Cuarón. 11. The Way Back. An army officer, sentenced to 20 years in a Siberian gulag, makes a successful escape with a few other inmates. But they must travel 4,000 miles on foot before they can reclaim their freedom. The Way Back was released in 2010 and was directed by Peter Weir. 12. Into the Wild. Christopher McCandless, a young graduate, decides to renounce all his possessions and hitchhike across America. During his journey, he encounters several situations that changed him as a person. Into the Wild was released in 2007 and was directed by Sean Penn. 13. I Am Legend. Robert Neville, a scientist, is the last human survivor of a plague in the whole of New York. He attempts to find a way to reverse the effects of the man-made virus by using his own immune blood. I Am Legend was released in 2007 and was directed by Francis Lawrence. 14. Everest. On the morning of May 10, 1996, climbers Jason Clarke, Josh Brolin, from 2 expeditions start their final ascent toward the summit of Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth. With little warning, a violent storm strikes the mountain, engulfing the adventurers in one of the fiercest blizzards ever encountered by man. Challenged by the harshest conditions imaginable, the teams must endure blistering winds and freezing temperatures in an epic battle to survive against nearly impossible odds. Everest was released in 2015, and was directed by Baltasar Kormákur. 15. The Road. In a post-apocalyptic world, a father must protect his son from a group of cannibals who have menaced the streets. They plan to head south where there is a hospitable environment to live in. The Road was released in 2009 and was directed by John Hillcoat. 16. Rescue Dawn. Following a crash during the Vietnam War, fighter pilot Dieter gets caught by peasants. In captivity, he hatches and executes an escape plan with 5 deranged prisoners only to face bigger hurdles. Rescue Dawn was released in 2007 and was directed by Werner Herzog. 17. Open Water. Susan and Daniel are on a scuba diving trip. They are accidentally left behind due to an inaccurate head count and find themselves struggling for survival in shark-infested waters. Open Water was released in 2004 and was directed by Chris Kentis. 18. Touching the Void. In 1985, 2 young climbers, Joe Simpson, Brendan Mackey, and Simon Yates, Nicholas Aaron, set out to be the first to reach the summit of the Sierra Grande in the Peruvian Andes. They succeed, and the 2 embark on the treacherous descent down the mountain, only to meet with disaster when Simpson breaks his leg in a fall, leaving Yates to lower him the rest of the way with ropes. When a storm threatens both their lives, Yates must decide whether to cut the rope and risk Simpson's likely death. Touching the Void was released in 2003 and was directed by Kevin MacDonald. 19. Buried. A U.S. truck driver, Paul, is attacked by Iraqis and finds himself 6 feet underground with no idea of this claustrophobic situation. With just a lighter and a cell phone, he races against time. Buried was released in 2010, and was directed by Rodrigo Cortés. 20. Deliverance. 4 urban men bound for wilderness go on a weekend canoeing trip down a river in the Georgia backcountry where they face their worst nightmares. Deliverance was released in 1972 and was directed by John Borman. There you go, those are your Hollywood Top 20 Survival Movie list of all times. Enjoy!